Right now, hundreds of first responders are desperately searching the Potomac for any survivors after an American Airlines plane collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter near Reagan National Airport overnight. 3 service members were in that Army helicopter, which was on a training flight. South Dakota Senator Michael Round sits on the Senate Intel and Armed Services Committee, and the senator joins us now. Senator, last year, Congress approved more flights for Reagan National in an FAA bill despite pushback. Do you think Congress should revisit that now?
Look, I don't think that had anything to do with the very unfortunate incident that occurred last night. This is a tragedy. What we're seeing right now is what happens if you have a lack of communication or a misunderstanding. It is a very busy airport, but my suspicion is that this tragedy is one that, number one, we start out by looking at the families. We take care of the families. We take care of and we thank the folks who are trying to respond as quickly as possible. But look, I'm sure there'll be some second guessing, but I suspect that when everything is done and the dust settles, the chances are really good that they'll talk about a lack of communication between the aircraft.
You are on 2 very powerful committees, like I mentioned in the introduction, Intel and Armed Services there in the Senate. What role do you expect those committees to play in the investigation?
I think most of this will settle with the Department of Transportation, the FAA, and most certainly, look, there is an ongoing process with professionals in place already within the Department of Transportation. So, look, I think this is probably going to be one in which the FAA will take the lead role on it, but they'll try to learn everything they can about what happened, the communications that were occurring, whether or not there were any mechanical breakdowns, avionics that maybe didn't work, anything along that line at all. I'm sure that it will be comprehensive in nature. These folks are professional. They'll do everything they can to find out what it is. I don't believe that you're going to find intel or, other than the Armed Services, with the fact that we have an Army aircraft involved with the Sikorsky, the 60. That particular helicopter coming out of an Army base and so forth, there may be some questions there as to what went on with that aircraft itself, but most of this will be a base of, in aviation, we have folks that are professionals and they'll take a look at it from what happened in flight. Was there communication? Was the communication accurate and so forth? I think that's where the vast majority of the information or discussion is going to occur.
And you are likely right. And at this point, 10 hours, less than 10 hours from the horrific incident, it does appear that communication is the prime suspect at this point. But you know, in a moment like this, the American people, they want answers, but they also want reassurance that something like this won't happen again. And they look to their elected leaders for that. So, knowing how Congress works, is there anything Congress can do to make sure nothing like this happens again?
The first thing you do is allow the professionals to do their job, provide them with the resources, make sure that they're properly led, but allow them to get the job done in an appropriate fashion. Sometimes Congress or any elected body can start asking questions or get in the way of allowing those professionals to gather the data appropriately. I do have faith in the folks that work as professionals in this particular field. They'll find out what happened. They'll work their way through all of the different alternatives and so forth. And then it'll be a matter of whether or not there's a change or an additional amount of resources that are needed, perhaps some changes in terms of the rules that govern the flights up and down the Potomac in this very, very busy area. But the National Transportation Safety Board will have a say in it, and they'll be reviewing all of this. Is a terrible tragedy. Right now, I think we hold those families close. We think about them. We think about the crews and also those first responders that have been out there all night long. Take care of them, recognize that they're all trying to do the best job they can, and do our best not to get in their way over the next couple of days.
Understood. Senator Michael Rounds, thank you, sir. And obviously we had the senator on to talk about the events on Capitol Hill. All that is not important right now when we think about these lost lives. Fox and Friends continues our coverage right now.